The moderators are gross. Margaret Brennan, not only do you desperately need some bronzer, you need to understand how to moderate a fair debate when you have half the country who's rooting for the other guy. She didn't even attempt to be fair. I mean, I'm going to utter words I never thought I would utter. I preferred Norah O'Donnell. Actually, oh my God.
Governor Walz brought up the community of Springfield, and he's very worried about the things that I've said in Springfield. Look, in Springfield, Ohio, and in communities all across this country, you've got schools that are overwhelmed. You've got hospitals that are overwhelmed. You have got housing that is totally unaffordable because we brought in millions of illegal immigrants to compete with Americans for scarce homes. The people that I'm most worried about in Springfield, Ohio, are the American citizens who have had their lives destroyed by Kamala Harris's open border. It is a disgrace, Tim. And I actually think, I agree with you. I think you want to solve this problem, but I don't think that Kamala Harris does.
Senator, your time is up. Governor, you have 1 minute to respond.
Yeah, well, it is law enforcement that asked for the bill. They helped craft it. They're the ones that supported it. That's because they know we need to do this. Look, this issue of continuing to bring this up, of not dealing with it, of blaming migrants for everything. On housing, we could talk a little bit about Wall Street speculators buying up housing and making them less affordable, but it becomes a blame. Look, this bill also gives the money necessary to adjudicate. I agree. It should not take 7 years for an asylum claim to be done. This bill gets it done in 90 days. Then you start to make a difference in this, and you start to adhere to what we know, American principles. I don't talk about my faith a lot, but Matthew 25:40 talks about, to the least amongst us, you do unto me. I think that's true of most Americans. They simply want order to it. This bill does it. It's funded. It's supported by the people who do it. And it lets us keep our dignity about how we treat other people.
Thank you, Governor. And just to clarify for our viewers, Springfield, Ohio does have a large number of Haitian migrants who have legal status. Right. Temporary protected status.
Well, Margaret, but
thank you, Senator. We have so much to get to.
Margaret, I think it's important because
we're going to turn out of the economy. Thank you,
Margaret. The rules were that you guys weren't going to fact check, and since you're fact checking me, I think it's important to say what's actually going on. So there's an application called the CBP One app, where you can go on as an illegal migrant, apply for asylum or apply for parole, and be granted legal status at the wave of a Kamala Harris open border wand. That is not a person coming in, applying for a green card and waiting for 10 years. That is the facilitation of illegal immigration, Margaret, by our own
Thank you, Senator, for describing the legal process. We have so much to get to, Senator.
Those laws have been on the books since 1990.
Thank you, gentlemen.
The CBP One app has not been on the books since 1990. It's something that Kamala Harris created, Margaret.
Gentlemen, the audience can't hear you because your mics are cut. We have so much we want to get to. Thank you for explaining the legal process.
Annalise, what were the big takeaways from the debate as you saw it? It seemed like a civil affair largely.
More of the traditional debate format that we've seen in previous debates, especially since they've had to start muting so that the candidates could talk and not talk over each other. This time we saw a bit of back and forth between the two. But really, JD Vance was quite a polished performer, and he did seem to get under Walz's skin on a number of occasions. And there were a few missteps from Walz. Of course, we're with a bunch of Republicans, so they're wanting to see JD Vance do well, but he gave them a lot to be happy about. So we're going to ask a few of them now ourselves. This is Chris. Chris, what did you think of how it all went?
I thought he did phenomenal. It was very direct, straight to the point, had a lot of great points on different topics. And I think even the moderators tried to throw him off a few times. Tim Walz tried to throw him off. Didn't work. He seemed very presidential in 4 years.
What was the topic you thought he really got Walz on the best?
It's hard to pick because he nailed all of them. I think energy was a big one, talking about how we don't have enough nuclear energy in this country. That's something that, to me, I think is important because eventually, fossil fuels will go away someday, and we need a plan after that. And I think that was a pretty smart thing to bring up because I think nuclear energy is something that's very underutilized in this country. So also just in terms of the border, and then even talking about democracy and how Tim Walz and Kamala Harris are more a threat to democracy through censorship and trying to limit people's free speech by saying hate speech. Well, what is hate speech? How do you define it? There's a lot of different variables involved in that. So I think overall he did a phenomenal job.
I thought that was a really interesting new line that he had on abortion, where he was saying we need to earn trust back. We haven't heard that characterization from them before. How do you think that's going to play out? Do people your age talk about it with you, that kind of topic?
Well, a lot of people might talk about abortion. Unfortunately, a lot of people seem to make their vote based on that, which to me, I get it. It's an important topic, but in the day, there's a lot more important topics to talk about. But I think, I think that was a good point. And sure, the Republican Party probably has lost some women's votes because of that. But I like the point he made about earning back their trust because at the end of the day, I do agree with the idea that the people decide. It's not a federal one thing fits all type thing. So I agree with him on that.
I know that was a tough question for me to throw at you unprepared, so okay. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it. So, Kieran, this is why we come to these events, because it gives you the best sense of what people are talking about out on the campaign trail. These are the young people that are out doing a lot of the volunteer work, talking to voters. And so this is why we want to know what they're reacting to, what they think is going to be a good thing that they can bring up when they're out talking to voters to say, did you see that? It's a really persuasive point. So what we heard from everyone here was they thought JD Vance did very well, and they especially thought he was quite good at getting under Walz's skin, that he did have a few of those misspeaks, including saying that he was friends with school shooters. It seems like that wasn't what he meant to say.